Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hannah Radovish, and I'm going to be your trainer today for Gale. We're going to be reviewing Gale legal forms as well as Gale Business Plan Builder. So just a quick agenda as we get started today. We're going to start with an overview of Gale legal forms. We're going to look at it first here in PowerPoint, and then we're actually going to jump in the resource and explore there. Then we're going to do the exact same thing with Gale Business Plan Builder. I'm going to hop back here in PowerPoint, and then we'll jump into the resource and explore how to create a for-profit as well as a nonprofit business. And then at the end, we will have some time for some questions and some support site information. So we're going to start today with Gale Legal Forms. And if you haven't explored Gale Legal Forms before, it's a really wide selection of state-specific and multi-state customizable legal forms. They're customizable in the sense that you can download some of them and edit them in a Word document. And some can also be filled out online without needing to open them in another program. These legal forms include things like real estate contracts, wills, premarital agreements, bankruptcy and divorce papers, landlord-tenant, and much, much more. We also have some litigation forms, court samples, checklists, sample letters, and more. Legal forms, despite its name, actually has a lot more than just legal forms. So I'll be showing you some of that today in our walkthrough. And then lastly, we have legal overviews, some definitions, a legal Q&A for support. This is actually one of my favorite parts of legal forms because, going into the legal world can be a little intimidating at first, especially with all of the different terminology and things like that. So legal forms does a good job of breaking down these subjects into layman's terms so we can understand, what it is we're reading in these legal documents. So like I said, this is legal information simplified for the average person that doesn't have a law degree to jump in and be able to use these forms to solve their problems. Under the category of finances, like I said, we have real estate, landlord-tenant, bankruptcy, insurance, bookkeeping, and payments. Different social contracts, including marriage, divorce, cohabitation, and power of attorney. Different legal information, including letters, checklists, legal definitions. And then business contracts, including vendor and customer contracts, partnerships, and really there's a lot more small business on legal forms. And since we're reviewing Business Plan Builder today, I wanted to show some of the small business reasons why you might use legal forms. And those include forms for your finances, such as checklists, spreadsheets, and worksheets for your accounting, bookkeeping, and customer payments of your small business. Business operation forms to help you with advertising and HR information. Different legal forms revolving around applying for copyright, patents, and trademarks. And then different forms for your contracts, licensing, and agreements. So while legal forms is made for the average user to be able to go in and find forms for their legal issues, there's also a lot to support small business entrepreneurs. So let's explore. We're going to spend most of our time today actually in these resources. So I have a couple different tabs open here. There we go. I'm going to move this over. Okay, we're going to start with Gale legal forms to begin with. And I've just selected my home state of West Virginia here, but I'll show you how to access some of the different states. But this is the landing page when you log on. If you wanted to go to a different state, you could do that here and select the state for forms that you are looking for. I'm actually going to go to Ohio because they have a good selection here. So the first section I want to look at is over here on the side under Gale Legal Forms where I selected that state subscription. One of my favorite things to point out is this legal definition section. So, as you or other patrons are progressing through this resource, you may come across terms that you're not familiar with. There's a lot of legal terminology across these forms, and it can make things a little bit difficult to understand what you're reading. So, I know recently my parents were working with probate. My grandfather passed away, and they were handling his estate, and there were a lot of concepts that they did not understand. So, this was actually a real case scenario for me to jump in and use legal forms in my personal life. So we jumped here onto probate. And you can see there were a lot of terms that I scrolled through. So when you go into the probate section, this really breaks it down and understand to help you understand what it is that you are working with. And as you can see, this is way more than just a basic definition. It really goes into paragraphs explaining the concepts of probate and when you might find yourself, needing or using this term. And when you go into the legal definitions, there's also a search box. So I clicked on the P and scrolled all the way down, but if there's a term here that you don't know, you can search for it here as well. So if I wanted to do a basic search, let's say that I was called for jury duty and I want to learn more about that, I could do a search box and read more about that legal concept. You can also select the exact word match if you wanted to search for just jury. Next is tax forms. And I like this because it will take you directly to your state tax office. So if I went to the state of Ohio, for example, this will take me to the Ohio Department of Taxation with their tax forms. Next up is the attorney directory. This is great if you're looking for an attorney that covers a particular practice area. So you'll see I selected the state of Ohio again, and we have different practice areas to choose from. So let's say that I am starting my own small business and I'm going to need some, legal assistance in guiding this small business world. So I could go here under practice areas and small business. And since I'm searching under the state of Ohio, it's going to pull up attorneys in different cities, focusing in the practice area of small business. So there's quite a few for small business, but some of these practice areas are pretty niche. So if I needed, an attorney focusing on lemon law, for example, you can see there's just a few that really focus in that practice area. Another area that I like to point out is the Law Digest. You can see here, this is the reference book covering American law. So you can scroll through, the index here of different topics that are covered in this text, really. And this is updated regularly. Next is the legal Q&A, and I really like this section because it gives you an option to research a question that you may have and see how it has been answered by actual practicing attorneys on this site. So if I am looking for questions revolving around, let's see, the elderly. So you go here and you'll see that there are questions that have been asked. And then you can view the answer. It will say what state that this was answered in, but these are all questions that have been answered, like I said, by practicing attorneys that sign up to participate in this. So you can view their answers, and sometimes they will provide links to help you with your question. We have some articles from Legal Life that you can view revolving around different topics. So owning a business, for example. You can go here and read this legal journal revolving around owning a business. And then there are some helpful topics. These are some that are searched for quite regularly, kind of our top hits that you can view this way. You'll see here we also have our most popular legal searches, what we're seeing searched for across legal forms, the type of forms that we're looking for. Now, one thing that bothers me a little bit about the way that legal forms is set up is that here under our most popular legal searches, you'll notice at the bottom, we also have sample letters and complete your forms online. So I definitely wanted to point out that these are at the bottom here, kind of out of place, I think, from where you would, expect to find them. And the sample letter section is actually really useful because sometimes you will have to send, a legal letter to someone that you may be having a dispute with, or that you need, send a letter to an employer or a coworker or something like that, a neighbor. And these are already pre-written for you. And some of them are available to be filled out online, as well as provided in a Spanish translation. So you'll see here, anything that has the asterisk next to it in legal forms is also available in Spanish. So I'm going to click on one of these letters and show you what it looks like. So you can see here they're available in a Microsoft Word template. So if I download this document, move this over to my main screen. So you'll see this is a pre-written letter, but it's now editable for me. So I can go in and edit this as needed, fill in the blanks. It starts here with the Spanish translation. And I downloaded both Spanish and English. So when I go down, I'll get the English version. So this is what it looks like when you download a form in a Word document format. But we also have some that are fillable online. But when you open up one of these letters, you'll see you get a description of when you would use this type of letter, and then you get a preview as well. But when you go to the very bottom, you'll see complete forms online. And this gives you the option to be able to edit these forms without having to use a different program. So if you sell something online, for example, you find someone, you sell a car or house that you own, and you need to create a bill of sale. Let's see, I'll go into just bill of sale here. And now this is fillable online. So I can select, fill in all of these different options, progress throughout, and then it will give me an option to print, and I never have to leave legal forms. I can do it all directly here, and it will just plug in the information that I select. So this is incredibly useful, especially if you don't have access to programs like Word or something on the device that you're using. You can do them all online. Now, one of the most common ways that most people come in and search on legal forms is to use the basic search bar, because most of the time you know what you're looking for, and that's why you're visiting here. So if you were looking for custody forms, for example, you could type in the term, and just like doing any kind of internet search engine search, you can search for that term. You'll notice the categories pop up over each of the different forms. So if I'm looking for, power of attorney over a child, for example, the asterisk indicates that this is also available in Spanish. But I get the description, the preview, and here they're even giving me a summary of the law revolving around this topic for my state of Ohio that I selected. So this is the most common way that people search. They come in, they do a general search within legal forms. But if you're not quite sure what you're looking for, there are some other ways to browse as well. You can browse by alphabet. So if the search term, for example, I searched for custody, if I just wanted to view everything under the letter C, I could search this way. Or I can search by category. So you can browse these main categories. I've mentioned small business several times today. So if I wanted to browse the main category of small business, select here, and then you see it's going to break it down really into subcategories. And not all of these searches are legal forms in the term that you're probably thinking. So for example, if I wanted to look at spreadsheets, there's a pre-created spreadsheet for tracking my advertising expenses, and that will open as an Excel document. So lots of different categories and subcategories that you can get on here and look at. Wills, for example, that's a very popular search. You can see it's number 2. But lots of different subcategories. Wills for people with children. And they get really specific. So this would be a will for a divorced person not remarried with adult and minor children. So they really break it down to fit the needs of you and what you may need. Another thing I like to point out is that we have some larger resources. For example, if I do a search for the term guide, this will pull up some rather large files. For example, the new resident guide is one of my favorites because this is a guide for someone who may be, just moving to the state of Ohio. And it has lots of different information for the residency requirements, how to register to vote, how to get an ID card, how to apply for your driver's license and registration. So lots of different information. And I found that just by searching guide. So lots of different information here on legal forms other than just, your typical, bill of sale agreements or custody agreements or things like that. We cover a lot of different categories revolving around your personal life, your family, your small business. Lots of good stuff here. Okay, if we don't have any questions, I'm going to hop back in. Legal forms is pretty simple. Like I said, most of the time you kind of come into it knowing what you're looking for and what your searches are. But of course, you can reach out to me with any questions if you start using legal forms and do have some questions, get a little tied up. You can absolutely shoot me an email. But next, we're going to look at Gale Business Plan Builder. While it is pretty easy to use and pretty straightforward, it is a longer demonstration because there's so many things built into this resource. Gale Business Plan Builder is really a step-by-step guide. It guides you through every step of starting and running and maintaining a small business. So this is appropriate for patrons who are looking to start their own business, or even patrons who already have a successful small business and are looking at, managing some of the finances and the forecasting. It's a great way to verify your viability. A lot of entrepreneurs are unfortunately faced with some very tough choices about running their business. And in Business Plan Builder, a new-ish feature that we have is the option to run multiple simulations. So you can run kind of a best case scenario, a worst case scenario, and determine your business's viability. It also gives you the opportunity to write a complete business plan, really walk step by step through that process that can then be downloaded or emailed with investors or coworkers. So we have a section on Business Plan Builder both for-profit business and for nonprofit businesses. They look very similar, except for some of the wording is a little bit different between the two. So in a for-profit business, so you start with your entrepreneur profile. You go into your business ideation, where you use a lean canvas chart to determine your viability, your infrastructure, your customers, really where you idealize your business and what it will look like. Next, we have a break-even analysis to determine whether your business will cover costs and reach viability. And this is good, like I said, for businesses that are looking to be started or pre-existing businesses. You can go in and write a complete business plan, and there's several different options for that. And then financial projections, and this is especially useful for your patrons who may already have a small business. Now we have the same kind of walkthrough on the nonprofit side. So if you're looking to start a nonprofit side, you'll see some of the terminology and wording is a little different. So instead of your entrepreneur profile, you have your founder profile. You still have your ideation where you define your mission and your activities and outreach that you will use. Again, your break-even analysis, determine whether your foundation rather than your business will cover costs. You have your bylaws and strategic plans. So instead of your business plan, you have those bylaws and strategic plans in place. And then your financial projections to analyze your expenses and revenue and see if you have a financial future. So we have both for-profit and nonprofit. Today I'm going to be showing you the for-profit, but if you have any questions about the nonprofit, I can jump into it as well. Now we do have integration with Gale legal forms, and I'll show you that as we do our walkthrough. There are a lot of external resources and tips and tricks and guides kind of built into this Plan Builder resource, and legal forms is one of those. And since you subscribe to legal forms, it's built right in. Business Plan Builder does have you create a separate account. So you'll log in with your library's link, but then you will be prompted to create an account. So if it's your first time using Plan Builder, you would select first time here and create your account information. So you have a username, a display name, and your password and email. The display name would be the name of your business. It's what shows up on your Plan Builder profile. And one neat feature that we have built in now is the ability to connect with business partners and investors. So you can go under your account settings and can connect with different business partners and investors by adding users. And you can restrict their access based on their business role. So if you have kind of a silent partner that's not really involved in the decision making, but you want them to be able to see what you're creating, then you can add them as a user and give them no access. You can allow them, no editing access where they can't go in and change anything, or you can allow them full access where they can go in and see everything and make changes, which would be really good for a partnership. So let's jump into Plan Builder, and I'm actually going to have two different versions of this opened up. I have one that has been completed here for Neptune Coffee. And then I have one that doesn't really have any information plugged in yet for my bookstore, Chapters and Cappuccino. So I'm going to start by looking at the incomplete profile. This doesn't really have any information plugged in or anything. This is what our landing page looks like. You can translate the interface by going to the language option. So if you need that English language translation, you can do that here. You can skip ahead to different parts of the business plan in a few different ways, actually, here on Plan Builder. You can select one of the icons over the top. You can open them here on the side. And then once you add information into your business plan, you'll see it start to appear here in the center as well. So a couple different avenues for kind of opening up these categories. Up at the top, on the side, and in the middle of the page. Under your account, you have some different account settings that you can adjust. Change your password, create a new company. So you can have more than one company. I know in my home state, it's pretty popular for people to have like a lawn care or landscaping business in the spring and summer, and then do kind of snow removal and stuff in the winter. So they may have two different businesses with two different needs. So you could go in here and create two different companies. We have a mentorship program built in that you can discuss more with your library to be connected with a small business entrepreneur mentor, or you can become a mentor yourself. Now, under the account settings, this is where you can add those different users. And add the user, and you can change their access, so you can enter their username, and this is what you can do. You can add read only access or full access. So read only means they can only view the changes and information that you've input. Full access will allow them to edit that as well. But this is also where you can change your password and go back to your dashboard. Not too many settings to mess around with here, but there are so many tools built into this profile. One thing I definitely want to point out is the Guide Me section, and you'll see this pop up throughout the resource. This is just a welcome to Gale Business Plan Builder that kind of walks you through getting started, explains a little bit about the resource and what it can do. Now, step one of creating your business plan is to access your entrepreneur profile. These little arrows will open up drop-down menus where you can view the resources below. So we're going to look at the entrepreneur profile worksheet. This opens up kind of a graphic organizer where you start reflecting on, why you want to start a business. What do I love to do? What do I love how to do? What are my resources? How am I going to handle any setbacks? Basically reflecting on, is this a good idea? Do I think that I could be successful at this? Now, my favorite part of Plan Builder is all of these kind of blue sidebars that you will notice throughout. What is this? How does it work? Why should I do it? And where should I start? So this really explains the process, the logic behind completing this profile, and gives you kind of a baseline here of why you should be doing this and getting started. So we have the Guide Me that I pointed out. We have these blue sidebars, but that is not the end of the scaffolds. When you go in under question number 1, why do I want to start a business? You click the plus side to add your information, and you're going to see even more sidebars popping up. We have some amplifying questions with prompts, kind of guiding you. Why do I want to start my own business? Is it because I want more flexibility in my time and my life? Is it because I love a challenge? It's been a lifelong dream. So you have some prompts here to get started. You actually have an example down here in the text box. And then you have some helpful resources that are built in as well. So these will, take you to the entrepreneurial perspective. For example, I can open this in a new tab and read this document about, who are entrepreneurs? Is this me? Kind of thing. So lots of tools and helpful information built into this resource in several different ways. Guide Me, the sidebar, these prompts and examples and helpful resources, and you'll see that these are present throughout. And they're in each different category. My amplifying questions, my prompts. See, here's quite a long example. And you'll see these throughout. So once I have completed my entrepreneur profile, I've entered all of this information, I would click Done with Worksheet. And I'm going to show you what a finished profile would then look like. So I'm back under my profile of Neptune Coffee. And you'll see now in the center, it's marked as complete because this is a profile that has already been completed with information plugged in. I can open up that drop-down menu on the side. And here's my complete entrepreneur profile that I can view in the center of my page. Okay, we're back to my incomplete profile, chapters of cappuccino. Next up is our business ideation. And I will say that these kind of get more advanced as you go through. The entrepreneur profile is pretty simple, a lot of self reflection, and they do get more advanced as you progress. So, business ideation, we default here to a lean canvas model. I'll show you what that looks like. A lean canvas model, you'll notice that the numbering is kind of strange, but you are supposed to go in numerical order. So you'll start with the problem, your customer segments, your unique value propositions, solutions, channels, for example. So it kind of works almost like a Venn diagram type of thing. And you can see here the language is already getting kind of more advanced. If you're not familiar with the business world, then unique value propositions, that may sound like another language to you, right? So that is where those scaffolds that are built in really come in handy. So under this category, for example, we have our prompts that are hyperlinks. So if I wanted to, view how customers provide, I can open up that and view the helpful resources here below. Considering convenience, all of these categories will open up, more helpful resources to guide me on my path of finishing this lean canvas. But also here at the top, we still have the sidebar of what it is, how does it work, why should I do it, and where do I start? Now we default to the lean canvas model, but there are also some other business ideation formats loaded into Plan Builder. So we have the full canvas model, which is a more extended version of what we just looked at. We have the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats chart. And again, it still has this blue sidebar. We have the helpful resources. And when I go into enter information, I'm going to be faced again with the prompts to help guide me. We also have the PEST model, political, economic, social, and technological factors that you can enter. Same built in with all of these scaffolds. And last, we have Porter's 5 forces. So, if you're an entrepreneur and you already know kind of what business ideation format you want to use, we do have several different options built in. They all have these same scaffolds and resources, and you can use the one that best fits your needs. And after you're done, if I completed, this Porter's 5 forces kind of graphic organizer here, I do like to point out that these resources can also be downloaded or emailed. So you can download them as either a PDF or a Word doc, or you can share them. This would be great for, a business partner, an investor, someone that you just have, reviewing, a mentor, for example, just reviewing your content. So I'm going to go back to my completed business plan here. So business ideation, if I open it up, you'll see this is what it will look like when completed. So here, this is using the lean canvas model. And it has the information input here about my business. Okay, so that is the entrepreneur profile and business ideation. You'll notice here that some of these categories also have some resources here. So if I wanted to view some entrepreneur profile resources, this will take me to some links out. These are PDFs, for example. This is one on being innovative in the business world. There was also a category here for that under business ideation resources. So like I said, there's just so many resources built into this Plan Builder platform that will really help you start your own business and make it successful. Just like legal forms that has all of those different definitions and guides and so much more than just forms. This is so much more than just writing a business plan. This is really providing you as a small business owner or someone who wants to start a small business with all of the tools to be successful. So we've looked at steps 1 and 2. Step 3 is where it starts getting a little bit more complicated because this is where we're getting into the money aspects of starting and running your own small business. So we're going to start with the expenses category. And you'll see this opens up kind of a spreadsheet here that I can enter my information into. I have this blue sidebar button, but this is a really great time to use that Guide Me resource because it's going to take you through this page, highlight each section, and give you an example of what this means. So here under payroll, this is the amount of money that you expect to spend on payroll, so paying yourself and your employees. See, a little helpful hint, don't forget to include your own salary. If you pay yourself $60,000 per year and you have 3 employees that you pay 40, you'd enter 180 here. Growth, so this is how much you expect your total payroll to increase, whether that means, hiring new employees or maybe giving a cost of living raise. It even gives you a hint that 3% is fairly typical rate to enter. So you'll see that Guide Me is really going to, take you through each of these different steps and explain how to fill in these categories and give you some hints as well. We have a margin of error here at the bottom, saving, and then going on to the next category. So this is where you would enter, all of your different financial information, and you'll see here adjust for the different fiscal years. So this really is where we get into the forecasting option as well in terms of verifying your viability as a small business, your growth that's going to happen each year. Will you still be profitable as you progress through these future fiscal years? So you can enter these numbers, but you'll see here there's also a column for helpful resources, which you can open up and be taken to these tabs further explaining, with reference material covering these different small business topics. So again, just more examples of how, how much help is really embedded into this resource. So that is just one of the categories here under the break-even analysis. We have our expenses, and then we get into option 2, cost of goods sold, where you can have, your product or your service, depending on, what you're selling. If you're opening a convenience store, for example, you would have all of your different products here. But if you were opening up a salon, then you would maybe list all of the different, services and products that you're going to offer. So you have how much it costs you, your sales price, and then the margin that you're going to make off of that. So if something costs me $5 and I sell it for $9, then I'm making an 80% margin. So I can add all of my different costs here, label them, and then save. But you'll see we still have this blue sidebar. We have the helpful resources built in below in this dropdown. And we also have the Guide Me option again with description and explanation. So we have our expenses, our cost of goods sold, our capital category, which is section number 3, equity and debt. So like I mentioned, this does get a little bit more advanced as we progress. So this is where those helpful resources and the Guide Me tools are really going to come into play. We get into our sales. And this is also contributing to that forecasting where you're looking ahead at different fiscal years. And then at the end, this is giving me a very flat chart because I don't have any information input, but I want to show you this completed version of Neptune Coffee. So the break-even analysis, where this has some data input, this is the type of chart that it's going to give you after you input some data. You'll see here the icon at the bottom. We have our sales revenues. You can hover over and get additional information along each of these data points. In this case, we're looking at different fiscal years. We have our operating costs, our fixed costs, and our cash on hand. So you can see here that this business has become, more profitable over time. We have more cash on hand. So again, you will not get one of these charts until you have entered information into each of those break-even analysis categories. Okay, I'm going to jump back to my incomplete profile here and go next into business plan, where Plan Builder really gets its namesake. And just like with the business ideation, where we had several different options for you to choose from, we also have lots of different options under the business plan. So it kind of defaults to this lean business plan, but we have other options as well under other business plans. You'll see it defaults to a lean business plan, but we also have a full business plan, an executive summary, and assumptions. So if this can be chosen based on, what best fits the needs of your small business format. So we're going to look at the lean business plan. Again, we have the sidebar. To open up each section, you select the drop down. This is where I would enter my company name and some basic information. Then we also have some optional information as well. You can enter your FEIN number, your license number, your state. You can enter your mission statement, your classifications, and again, the helpful resources are built throughout, letting you know kind of why you're doing this. You have the Guide Me option to take you through each of these different steps, because a lot of this section really uses some terminology that may get a little confusing. You can enter your logo. You can keep track of your board members. And that is all under the lean business plan. But like I said, there are other business plan options. If I just wanted an executive summary, for example, this is a little bit more condensed with just the basic information. This is something that you may want to share with an investor, for example, because this is basically, like how would you describe your company and your vision in a 30 to 60-second commercial? So this is really, brief and to the point. So different business plans, really just to fit your needs for the business that you want to start. A popular thing when starting your own business, especially when looking for business partners or investors, is develop a pitch deck, which is a fancy way of saying a PowerPoint presentation to kind of overview your business. But we have an introduction to pitch decks here, kind of an outline of what you would need to include, and a template. So you can download this as a PowerPoint or as a PDF, which you could then edit and enter your own information. And this is also a place where you can upload and save your own pitch deck. So it could be accessed, like I said, if you add those additional users, this could be accessed here by, investors or business partners, for you to view and download it all in one place instead of having, to open up a bunch of different tabs with email and things like that. So this is a pretty handy resource because we have this built in, what all you should include, and you could choose to use this template if you wanted. So back on Plan Builder, the main page here, I found that under pitch decks. We've already looked at the other business plan options. There's some options here for marketing, market research, advertising, develop a strategic marketing plan. So this is where you could go in, and now that you have your business plan developed, you could really go in and determine, how do I want to market this business? What are my objectives? What's my strategy and my tactics? We have some business plan resources that will take you out to these external links as well. Your business structure, your marketing plan. But also under business plans, I mentioned earlier these scenarios, and this is really useful for patrons that may already have their own small business. We saw with the pandemic a lot of issues with supply and demand and inventory control and inflation, and struggling to hire employees and maintain employees. So this is a place where you could go in and enter different scenarios with your instead of entering a whole other company, you can instead just view different scenarios within your already created business. So it will take a lot of your information that you've already started, but you can go in and adjust things. So if you wanted to adjust your revenue, for example, like how long could I sustain with this many employees, paying them this much and this much coming in? Will I remain profitable? How many years can I last, or how many months can I last at this current rate that I'm at right now? You know what I mean? So you could do a worst case scenario in that instance where you're struggling with different employees, or supply chain issues, or you could enter a best case scenario. Okay, best case scenario, my marketing plan works out. I have so much business that I'm considering opening a second location, right? So you could enter different scenarios, not just worst case. You could enter best case as well, and kind of forecast that business, look at the different financial projections, and it's much easier than going in and creating an entire different company. So here I'm in my default scenario, but you can manage your scenarios and add, different ones. You'll see here under my completed business plan for Neptune Coffee, I am currently in my best case scenario. But you'll see here, this profile has some different scenarios built in. So I could do, worst case. I have a couple loaded here for changes due to the pandemic, and one for, if I decided to get a larger storefront, upgrade my location, and get into a bigger building. So really, there are so many resources under this business plan section. In addition to the actual business plans, you also have, your marketing plan, your different scenarios, and some resources for that. Now, last is category 5, and this is your financial projections. And this is the most complicated section, and it's also the section that would be most applicable to businesses that are already up and running, to kind of determine your future viability and things like that. And this gets really specific into the types of costs that you have, your debts, your loans, your equity, administrative expenses, inventory, your sales. And this is really breaking down your sales into different categories, forecasting forward, looking at your different taxes, staffing expenses, and tax information. So you can see here, just with the drop downs open, this is a vast category. Now, you may not use all of this information. This may not all apply to your different businesses, but the options are there in case you need them. So I just want to show you a couple of these examples because there is so much. So you could put your capital expenditures here. Your assets, the equipment that you have, the total cost of that, how much you'd get if you salvage it, your utilization here, your disposal date, your disposal amount. So you can see this gets incredibly detailed. If you're working with, different equipments here that need replaced on a regular basis, this is what, we're really getting into. So you have your capital equipment. You can get into your debts and your loans. So you can enter some basic debt information that you have. Maybe you've, acquired a loan from an investor or an actual lender through a bank or something. You can enter the loan information, the APR, the terms. So this is where it gets really useful for existing businesses. If you have an entrepreneur come in that, wants to determine their viability, they could jump right into the financial projection section and enter all of their different information and track it. But there's just so much under this category. And this is not, like I said, all of this is not going to apply to every business. It's really on an as needed basis. If you only have one business location or you're running an operation out of your home, for example, then you may not need this, locations tab or office expenses. So lots of information here. It can get a little bit overwhelming, but just remember that all of these categories have that, the blue sidebar here kind of helping you, and then the helpful resources at the top as well. Okay, that is about it for Plan Builder. Oh, I wanted to show you, I'm sorry, an example of the finished one here. So under my finished plan, you'll see here I have my finished business plan over here in the center with lots of different information input. And then my financial projections are in progress just because there is so much data. But at the end of this, once you have your information input, you can choose to download it. You can download each section or just one section at a time. So if I wanted to view, just my business plan, for example, I can download that file and then open it and share it with others, print it, or anything like that. And it will download it as a zip file. So hopefully you found this platform useful. If you're interested in starting your own business, this is definitely the tool for you. So much information built in, so many helpful resources and tools to guide you through, the pre-planning of your business, actually starting it, running it, maintaining it, and being successful and viable. So before we go, I did want to just quickly review our support site. You can visit support.gale.com, and we have lots of free resources built into our support site. So different information that you may use in the library, but we also have a training center, which has lots of tip sheets and tutorials and recorded webinars like this one today. Some of them are very short little videos highlighting different tools that we have in our resources. We have different training decks and lesson plans and scavenger hunts. You can see here I highlighted some of the resources we have for Business Plan Builder. And one here is an example of one of those shorter videos, 15 minutes to mastery developing financial data. So if you were really looking at the viability and forecasting resources, this would be a good quick video for you to watch. But all kinds of good stuff on our support site. And I wanted to leave you with my contact information. My name is Hannah Raudebush, and I am your training consultant. So if you have any questions about these resources, you can absolutely reach out to me and I'll help you. I also would love to hear any success stories. So if you use these resources and have good luck with them and have a good experience, please reach out to me and let me know, because we love to hear that people are, loving our resources and having success with them. Same goes for feedback. If you have any feedback about the resources, absolutely reach out, or reach out to Ann and she can let me know. The product team loves to hear things like that so that we can improve our resources. We have an online presence. So if you're into Twitter or YouTube or Instagram, you can follow us there. You can also subscribe to our monthly blog. And then if you have a minute, there is a training session survey that you can scan with your phone or on the QR code, or visit